Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast where I talk to you about all the recent films I've seen, and we've got 6 movies to talk about on this episode. And it just so happens I got to the movie theater, and I also kind of watched a movie that was in the theater. It's stretching the definition of a movie a little bit right there, but I still want to talk about something special. Regardless, we are at 5,804 films, and we're going to start with the first film, which is The Movie Man from 2024, directed by Matt Finlan. Amid a global pandemic, an entrepreneur looks back on his life's work, owning and operating an idiosyncratic cinema in the forest of northern Ontario. So this is the story of a man in Canada, the man being Keith Stata. Keith is from the town of Kinmount in the region of the Kawartha Lakes in Ontario. It's north of Toronto and pretty remote, and Keith runs a movie theater that he has quite literally started himself. He has built this theater from the ground up, and it looks kind of like an ordinary movie theater, but it's pretty special in that what was the town? Kinmount? Is that what I said? Yes, Kinmount is a fairly small town. If I recall correctly, I think there was about 300 residences in the town, but Keith's life dream of opening a movie theater has happened in Kinmount, and it still runs today. It has 5 screens at this point, and has been open for, what they say, over 40 years at this point. So Keith, in building this theater, has owned and operated it throughout his life, and it's not just a movie theater that is a property being a theater. It is also his home and a sanctuary that he has for animals, for cats specifically, animals that have been dropped on his doorstep that need care, and Keith takes care of them year round. The movie theater itself is only open from the springtime until maybe October or so due to the bad weather, the snow that the area gets. But yeah, this is a movie dedicated to Keith's dream of keeping this theater alive and running throughout all the bad times and good. And this movie does discuss the issues that have happened during COVID and how that affected the film-going community and how he had to close the theater. Though that did give him time to do refurbishments and such, it was still a struggle. It is always a struggle to run a small town movie theater, whether you're in Ontario or you're in the town next door here in, the United States. It's a difficult time for movie theaters. And I think this movie does a good portrait of not just portraying how difficult it is to run a movie theater, but how difficult it is to achieve, your life's goal and keep it going. And luckily he has the support of his community, though every season it is difficult to keep staff because maybe some of the youngsters who work there decide to work for only a couple months or so, and then they graduate and go off to other things outside of the small town. It's a difficult operation for sure, and Keith talks to you about all the warts of it, how difficult it is to do things, upkeep, everything, and how the snow affects his livelihood. I really enjoyed this documentary. I gave it 3 stars. It's only available on Canopy. It's a fairly small film, but it's a love letter to the cinema-going experience. And Keith's cinema, the Highland Cinema, is not just a cinema. There's also a museum for all the memorabilia that Keith has collected over the years, decades rather, throughout his life. And you can actually go visit the museum if you're at the Highland Cinema, or you can go see a movie, or buy a ticket for a movie and to see the museum and all the memorabilia there. Yeah, so The Movie Man from 2024, directed by Matt Finlan. It's an eye-opening documentary, something I think if you're a documentary person who just likes to watch movies about peering into the lives of people that you don't know or aren't familiar with in different worlds and places, this is an intriguing one, an interesting one. And if you like movies, hey, I'm hard-pressed to see how you could not enjoy this documentary. But yeah, it is only available right now on Canopy. And if you don't have Canopy, go to your local library if you don't have a library card and get one. Or if you have a library card, check out the media availabilities for online resources that your library has. You might have Hoopla, you might have Canopy, you might have both. Mine has both. Hoopla, not quite as great as Canopy, but don't count it out. It still's got plenty of movies out there for you to watch, and maybe one day The Movie Man will be on more platforms and available to even rent. But for now, it's on Canopy. check it out. It's a free service through your local library. And if they don't have it, request it. And maybe you can watch a movie like this. Up next, we have The Phoenician Scheme from 2025, directed by Wes Anderson. The tagline is, "If something gets in your way, flatten it." The story of a family and a family business. Benicio del Toro plays Zsa Corda, who is a businessman who has lots of dealings with many unsavory characters and workings, and after another assassination attempt where he has lost his assistant, Zsa Corda decides, hey, maybe it's time for me to shore up my accounts and my personal belongings and involve my one daughter, Liesel. Liesel, sister Liesel that is a nun, and she is very suspect of her father, who has not necessarily been in her life and may or may not have to do with the undoing of her mother. Zsa Corda's sons, outside of Liesel, all of his children, are far too young to take on his accounts. So he involves Liesel. She, reluctantly accepts and gets involved with him. Too much, humor and delight of, people who like me who enjoy Wes Anderson movies. This is very much a Wes Anderson movie through and through. Through it all. It's funny, I saw this movie with my father, and my father said to me, "So what genre is that film?" After we watched it. And I said to him, "It's not a genre, it's just a Wes Anderson film." I mean, he is kind of a genre into himself. Yeah, fans of his movies, And if you're not a fan, His movies have a particular style, a quirkiness, a cheekiness, sweetness too, and also dealing with the weight of family situations. And along the way, in this story of family issues and business, we meet Bjorn, who's played by Michael Cera, and this is a delightful performance. It's kind of shocking that he fits so well in Wes Anderson's universe, or maybe it's not shocking at all. But it is surprising that he has not worked with him before, because it's just a perfect fit. And I think his performance here as Bjorn is so funny and interesting. There's a couple of levels to it and a lot of fun. I loved him in this part. And this movie has a fantastic cast. Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matthew Ulmerich, Richard Ayoade, Jeffrey Wright, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rupert Friend, Hope Davis, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, just to name a few, Charlotte Gainsbourg as well, F. Murray Abraham, Stephen Park. Yeah, lots of colorful characters, people who have worked with Wes Anderson before. But someone who has not worked with Wes Anderson before is Bruno Del Bonell. I don't think he has done any features, it looks like. Yeah, this is his first feature with Wes Anderson, because usually Wes Anderson's films are done by the cinematographer Robert Newman. Not this time around, but it looks great anyway. I could sort of tell the change, but regardless, the feel of Wes Anderson is here through and through. He's doing what he does best, which is making these outlandish, bizarro kind of throwback stories and strange worlds and worlds that we are familiar with through his own, filmmaking, and a great cast, lots of wonderful actors who all have their fun little parts. And I found this to be delightful. I gave it 3.5 stars. It also has a really lovely opening credits sequence that was different than I think anything Anderson's done before. Really enjoyed it. Had a great time. Though I have to say, it's Wes Anderson at his most Wes Anderson. So if he's not your cup of tea, do not bother. But if you're not familiar with his films, you might notice the through line, like I mentioned, about family and such. And such a through line that a young man, after the movie was over, loudly said to his friends nearby, "Hey, it was like the Royal Tenenbaums all over with the father." And that's not the first time any kind of father figure's been used in a Wes Anderson movie, buddy. But yeah, Wes is working within his, his court, his plane, however he operates, and doing what he does best, for sure. And this is something I hope I can watch again soon. Now, up next, we have Good Night and Good Luck from 2025, directed by Grant Heslov and Micah Bickham. And you might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, that's not a movie. That's right. It's the CNN live broadcast of the stage play adaptation of the film Good Night and Good Luck, which was directed by George Clooney. He wrote it as well, and now he's adapting it for the stage with Grant Heslov and starring as Edward R. Murrow. No, we don't have David Strathairn who was in the original. Let me say his name again. David Strathairn. There we go. We don't have him playing Edward R. Murrow here. No, we have George Clooney, and I think he did a marvelous job. I quite enjoyed the staging of this and its adaptation of taking something that was a fairly inert film that shot in black and white, had this very like kind of one note focus, but not to say it was to its detriment. I quite enjoyed the film. And now in its translation into color, we do have the usage of television footage and interviews, like Edward R. Murrow interviewing Liberace, the use of black and white footage in the screen, and then also the behind the scenes stuff to add color to the lives of the people working with Edward R. Murrow for his broadcasts. It's so interesting and intriguing the way things are set up, and seeing that translation into stage. I had a great time watching this. I don't have much else to say about it, but I will mention, I know this is available online if you missed it. Now, not through formal channels necessarily, but I found a link for it on Reddit after my DVR failed. I'm not sure if CNN had the hit out on DVR recordings or something of expiring in a certain window, because I didn't get to watch my DVR copy. I did find someone posting a link to it somewhere on Reddit, that it was on the Internet Archive, and sure enough, I found it, I downloaded it, I watched it, and the translation to a home viewing experience for a Broadway stage play was a great one in my opinion, and I quite like this. So I'm mentioning it here, kind of with an asterisk on the end, just so everybody knows this is not a movie. It's an adaptation of a movie for the stage, made for television, sure, but I gave it 3.5 stars anyway. It's on Letterboxd. 2,000 other people have logged it as well, and it's there until they take it down, so I'm going to count it. Now, granted, I'm not saying this is going to be one of my favorite movies of the year, because it's not a movie, but I wanted to mention it here anyway because it is an adaptation of a film. So good night and good luck. The stage play broadcast on CNN that I did not watch on CNN. 3.5 stars, technically. Yeah, and if you got a problem with me rating this and discussing it on the pod, well, that's just too bad. It's not your podcast. Up next, we have Click from 2006, directed by Frank Corsi. The tagline is, "What if you had a universal remote that controlled your universe?" A married workaholic, Michael Newman doesn't have time for his wife and children, not if he's to impress his ungrateful boss and earn his well-deserved promotion. So when he meets Morty, a loopy sales clerk, he gets the answer to his prayers, a magical remote that allows him to bypass life's little distractions with increasingly hysterical results. Can't agree with the movie being hysterical in its results, unfortunately. I watched this movie because fate kind of had a play in it. I was out in public and I was in a bathroom and I found a movie ticket stub on the floor. I look at the movie ticket stub and it's for this movie, Click. It's a stub from 2006 for a movie theater in Kansas. I don't live anywhere near Kansas. In fact, it's more than 1,000 miles away. What is this movie stub doing here? I don't know. Anyway, the entire story of me finding the ticket stub for Click is way more entertaining and curious than the movie itself. I'm not a fan of Adam Sandler. I'll watch something if he's in it, but the Adam Sandler flavor of films, like the movies he makes that are for him, starring him, 9 times out of 10, they don't work for me. I don't really mind The Wedding Singer. I haven't seen all of Happy Gilmore, and the Hotel Transylvania films I've seen, I didn't think were that bad. I remember not really hating it Crazy Nights, but maybe I just thought it was all, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify, my hatred for Adam Sandler or anything like that. It's just not for me, the stuff he does. And I would definitely think that Click falls in line with that as well. The humor isn't for me. The way this story goes about kind of being like a Frank Capra-esque story of this man realizing that, you're missing things in life when you hit the fast forward button. And it's got, little bits in here like muting your wife when you're having an argument or fast forwarding. Yeah. And then rewinding to remember things that you don't remember because you're a bad husband. Yeah. Little things like that. The movie plays it for humor and also, the recollective factor of you should have remembered that. Regardless, I think most of this movie does not work for me and I really just didn't care for it. And it's just, I'm not the customer. I'm not the Sandman fan club member. You might think I am. Oh no. Just not for me. I had to give this 1.5 stars, and I have a very interesting note that I need to mention here, something I realized while watching the picture. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but the older version of Adam Sandler's son in the film as time passes on into the future is played by Jake Hoffman, who is the son of Dustin Hoffman. Very strange thing that happened here. Well, as much as Jake Hoffman is related to Dustin Hoffman, when he showed up on the screen, he kind of sounded exactly like Adam Sandler's, like you presume his son would sound, while looking like Dustin Hoffman, but also kind of looking like Adam Sandler. It was a very strange experience and very perplexing, and I have seen Jake Hoffman in other projects before, so I don't know if he was acting to sound like Adam Sandler or that's just how he sounds all the time. I don't know. That fact alone might have prevented me from giving this 1 star, even though it's really not for me. Yeah, humor aside, what an interesting performance. Brief, but interesting. There's a kink in my sort of feeling that Click isn't anything at all of substance when there's something going on here with that kid. He's not really a kid. He's like older than me, but yeah, I'm not saying watch Click for Jake Hoffman and if he's acting like Adam Sandler or he naturally just kind of has an Adam Sandler essence to him despite being related to Dustin Hoffman. I don't know. Maybe that's just how it works out. Anyway, Click, 2006, directed by Frank Corsi. Gave this 1.5 stars. I own this on DVD. Yeah, it came in one of those Bull Moose grab bags. I've bought a bunch of them over the years, and sure enough, you end up with movies like this. But the movie stub, it's the movie stub's fault. That's why I watched this. No, I don't hate this movie. I just know it is extremely not for me. So there we go. Something that is also extremely not for me is Materialists from 2025, directed by Celine Song. The tagline is, "Some people just want more." A young, ambitious New York City matchmaker finds herself torn between the perfect match and her imperfect ex. Now, I went into this movie thinking I have to see this movie, regardless of whatever's going on. I wasn't a big fan of Past Lives. I just didn't really care for the dialogue and never really felt the emotional impact the movie was going for. Like it was, much like Click, just not a movie for me. And Materialists is very much not a movie for me. There's some pieces here in this film as far as like these actors and what they're going for and what the story is trying to tell us about this character Lucy, who's played by Dakota Johnson. She's firm, or so we think, in her belief that, she should not necessarily be with a man who isn't rich. No. She wants to be with a guy who is set up for life and, just wants to make her life easy. And she ends up meeting that guy who sort of seems like he's the right fit for her. The character Harry, who's played by Pedro Pascal, swoops in one fateful wedding reception and they start to be talking and get to know each other. And sure enough, in that exact same moment, who does Lucy run into but her ex, John, who's played by Chris Evans. And John comes into the picture after being out of the picture for a while. They were in a long-term relationship, but now they're not together. And Harry's here. Harry is a unicorn, according to Lucy. They have these dinner meetings where they talk about their lives and the things that, Harry has to offer her potential clients because Lucy's a matchmaker. But is it really about him being a client? Oh, no. Lucy and Harry, they get together and they start dating and everything seems to be fine. Lucy is content, seemingly all right with this arrangement because it's an arrangement, really more than it's something about romance. And this movie wants to toe the line a little bit between drama and romance, and I think it would have served itself a little better if it tried to talk a little bit more about romance than just people talking about things. Because I ultimately found the scripting of this to be a similar problem to Past Lives, where these people are talking about these things, but the way the movie conveys what they're talking about and the actions surrounding it just doesn't really hit for me, and I'm not really buying these characters. Yeah, none of them, really. Dakota Johnson's Lucy, she does some wacky shit in this movie, like bonkers shit that I was just really shocked by. I'm not going to talk about what, because that's something you have to watch the movie for. It's just too new. I don't want to spoil it. But there's something that happens that made me really, red flag about this character. Like, what is wrong with you? And then we have John, Chris Evans, who is Lucy's ex-boyfriend of many years, and we learn the reason why they broke up. And I feel like the reason why they broke up is like deal breaker territory. That's not why you get back together with someone or even entertain them, in that capacity where you give them that feeling of, hey, my ex is back in my life. I don't know. I was really like not really vibing with that and how the movie was conveying, them sort of starting to communicate again after this long separation. And especially since John is just John. He is this guy. The movie is called Materialists, and it's about, what your relationship can offer you if you are looking for something outside of romance, which is what Lucy says she wants. And a lot of her reaction to what she wants with Harry is a reaction, or what she conveys she wants out of Harry is a reaction to her experiences with John. And shouldn't she want better things for herself? And then John's in the picture, and the movie tries to tell me that these two are in love, and I never see it. I never see where this could be potentially like a love triangle kind of thing, because it just feels like none of that is there between these people. Okay, another thing. Pedro Pascal's character, Harry, is just not in this movie enough. There is not enough about this character, not enough to really talk about him, and to make it feel like there's a viable possibility between Lucy and Harry. So I'm shortchanged in how the movie is trying to tell me, okay, she's got this option here, setting me up for something that is, very much inevitable and shouldn't feel inevitable. And then we have John here, who's supposed to be this somewhat, kink in the road for Lucy about, her possible relationship. And I'm just not seeing it there either. And if you watch this movie and you know what this movie is doing, you know where we're headed, and I don't like it. It'd be one thing if the scripting did a lot more to flesh out these characters, give them more things to do besides their jobs, like give Lucy some friends, give John more options in his life about how he can live, and not box him in as this schlub who lives in this very comedically badly done apartment situation with roommates and stuff. I found those scenes to be just bad. The tone is up and down here, and the highs aren't high enough. I don't care for the writing. I don't like how these people talk. It was just a bad time for me as this movie went along, and I was not enjoying myself. Now, another thing. I didn't like the cinematography in this movie, and we have Pedro Pascal in this film. Now, he has a reputation of being like sort of like an it guy. It's his moment, people like him. He's charismatic. He is good in things when he's not a good guy, and he's good in things when he's a good guy. I just found the way that they showed Harry in this movie, who's supposed to be this very well-off man, really disappointing and not enough for Pedro Pascal. Like, give him better lighting, give him better colors in clothes he wears. He's supposed to be very, very wealthy. And the movie does a bad job of conveying that, in my opinion, especially since this movie is supposed to be about the materialistic side of desire. And another thing, there's no passion between these characters in any respect, even the ones who were supposed to be feeling something together. And I'm disappointed. It feels like a flat, like listless mess of a script, and the ups and downs, like I said, the highs aren't high enough, and the lows are very low, bonkers stuff. Left me a little uncomfortable at times of where this movie was going with Lucy, and what else should I say? I really did not like this movie. I did not have a good time, and I noticed that there were other people who left the theater before it was over and did not come back, when you sort of see where the wheels are turning and where we're going. Yeah, if this movie had, like, let's say just 20 more minutes of Pedro Pascal kind of in there, this is a 2-hour film. Give him more time. Give more time to this character. Make this a more compelling discussion about what people desire in their relationship and of others, because it just isn't there. So Materialists from 2025, directed by Celine Song, I had to give this 1.5 stars. Just such a disappointment. And I'll be frank and say, after Past Lives, I was kind of just like, what could be, what could be worse than that? I don't think anything could, I'm not to say bad. Past Lives is really bad. It just didn't really work for me. And then this comes along and it feels like a step down from that. and I'm shocked. I'm surprised. Yeah, so let's go on to our last film, which is Diamonds Are Forever from 1971, directed by Guy Hamilton, the man who made 007 a household number. Diamonds are stolen only to be sold again in the international market. James Bond infiltrates a smuggling mission to find out who's guilty. The mission takes him to Las Vegas, where Bond meets his arch enemy, Blofeld. So Blofeld is back, and this time Sean Connery is back. No more George Lazenby, though I did quite like him. The diamond stuff in this movie is very silly, and I'm okay with it being silly in some respects, but it's kind of a stinky plot, and as far as stinky plots go, you kind of just need a bad guy, which you get in Blofeld, but the whole diamonds thing, it's just kind of like, it's a thing, but it's not really the thing. The thing is about James Bond kind of getting out of bad situations with Blofeld and escaping and not dying. So that's, what most Bond films are anyway. But along the way, we do meet Tiffany Case, our Bond girl here, who's played by Jill St. John. I don't think she's in the movie enough, but I liked her. There's the cheeky moments she plays into, things to do with her not wearing much clothes. Typical James Bond stuff. And Blofeld, played by Charles Gray, like him, don't love him, but I can't complain too much. Yeah, this one, it feels very slight in its story, but what it lacks in storytelling, I think it makes up for in intrigue and the usage of Las Vegas, which thankfully is miles better than the stuff going on in Kentucky in Goldfinger. Was that the one? Yeah, I don't like Goldfinger. But, I mean, it's James Bond running around doing all the stuff you expect him to do, a woman gets thrown out of a hotel window and she falls into a pool, that kind of stuff. It's the casual sexism and expect out of James Bond. And Sean Connery, in this one, he's not like the best kind of version of Bond. He's not really fun. He seems kind of like a jackass in this one. And the way he talks to Tiffany, yeah, not so great. But as much as this one sort of has like a lot of things working against it, I think it looks fantastic. I think the action, though kind of limited, is good. Like there's a car chase in Las Vegas that I think is really fun, though it kind of feels like a step down for a Bond film. Regardless, like production design is really terrific. The intrigue, it's okay. It's just the stuff with the diamonds and the way it's like, these guys got the diamonds. The diamonds are fake, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, I don't know. It's like kind of needless because it's really just about Blofeld trying to get one over on James Bond after all this debacle. I just watched the film, so it's kind of fresh in my mind, but the more I'm thinking about it and now in this moment, it's really just, there's like there's a scene where James Bond is like getting away on a little space rover thing in like the mountains and like he's being chased by a bunch of dudes, and that's kind of what this movie is. Like Bond isn't working with much as far as a vehicle, but he can still get to the finish line and get out of the hands of the bad guys anyway because he's Bond. It's just what he does. So I had to give this one 3 stars. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It's probably low on the scale of Bond films I've watched in recent times with my sister because that's why I was watching it. Let me look at the list and actually tell you like kind of where this is gonna fall for me. I think it's gonna be, it's kind of even with Thunderball for me. Maybe I'd put it above Thunderball because the action is a little better and Thunderball is really long. Yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna put it. So it's gonna be in the 5th place out of the, how many have I watched? Is it only, it's only 7 right now. So, but I've got a lot of Bond to go, a lot of more bonding to do with my sister and watching the films. And she liked this one too. She liked it better than Goldfinger. She flat out said that. It does not take much to be better than Goldfinger. But as I said, Diamonds Are Forever from 1971, directed by Guy Hamilton. It's a 3-star Bond for me. There's only a couple I gave 3.5. Which ones? Was it From Russia with Love and... Oh yeah, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. From Russia with Love, still the best one. You Only Live Twice. That almost feels exactly like this film, though. I think that You Only Live Twice is a little better. Okay, so that is the episode. That is what I've been watching recently. I'm hoping the next episode comes out next week, though. If I get on a 2-week schedule, don't hate me. Please don't hate me. I'll make it work. We'll talk when we talk. But what's coming soon to theaters? Elio? I think I'm gonna see Elio. I do want to see Ballerina, the John Wick film. I'm not sure I'm gonna have time to get to the movie theater though. I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. I have a bunch of other films I want to watch that are, stuff that's like kind of been on my mind. A bunch of stuff on the Criterion channel. I did rent Catwoman. Yes, I've been wanting to watch Catwoman forever and I've never seen it. I don't know. It's summertime. The theaters are, showing all kinds of movies. I did want to watch the new Captain America movie, or maybe see how much I can get through it without turning it off. If I don't turn it off, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we'll talk. We'll see. Any new movies, I'll talk to you about it. So cinema5000.com is the website. That's also where I'm hosting YouTube. When I upload a new YouTube video, if you hit the blog, you can see the link for the YouTube video, but otherwise Cinema 5000 podcast on YouTube, Cinema 5000 on Bluesky. And if you want to send an email, send it to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. Again, my name is Mallory. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I'll talk to you soon. We'll talk more movies when we talk more movies. Okay, bye.